You ever get one of those calls in the middle of the night that just doesn't feel right? Not like a bill collector or a buddy checking in from the road. I mean the kind that hums with something darker. That's how this all started. It was a little after 12:30 a.m. when my old flip phone buzzed on the nightstand. I was parked in a worn-down rest stop just outside Flagstaff, catching some shut-eye in my sleeper cab. The Arizona heat clung to everything like a second skin, even at night, and the AC was barely holding on. I groggily flipped open the phone, squinting at the screen. The caller ID read, "Unknown." "Yeah?" I grumbled. There was static at first. Then, a voice came through, low, shaky, like someone trying to whisper over the roar of a storm. "Mike, it's Ray from dispatch. We got a situation. You heard anything about Jake?" Jake Redman was a solid trucker, old school guy, drove a beat-up but trusty Peterbilt, called it Old Hazel. Always on time, always professional, didn't take any crap from nobody. We'd shared a few long hauls out to Reno and Amarillo back in the day. Good man. "No, I haven't. What's going on?" I sat up, suddenly wide awake. "We lost him somewhere along Route 666, rigs still idling. He's gone, just gone. Cops found the truck near a busted-up marker, 6666 or something like that." "Wait, route what now?" I asked, heart beating a little faster. "Yeah, I know. One of those stretches of road that don't sit right with folks. They call it Devil's Highway. Mostly desert, empty as hell. Used to be part of Route 66 before they renumbered it, but nobody uses it anymore. Except Jake, apparently." I pulled on a flannel and opened the truck door. A wave of dry night air hit me like a hairdryer on full blast. I stepped down and lit a cigarette with trembling fingers. Why would he be out there? "That route's dead," said. He was taking a shortcut. Needed to make up time after a blowout near the I-40. Took that turnoff just west of Gallup. After that, nothing. CB went to static. GPS glitched. Sheriff out there said it was still in drive. Engine purring like nothing ever happened. Door open. Cab empty. Like he stepped out for a smoke and never came back. That cold feeling crept up my spine. You know the one. Like someone just walked over your grave. You want me to look into it? I figured you might. I know you and Jake were tight. Look, man, I'm gonna level with you. This ain't the first call we've gotten about that stretch. Drivers reporting strange lights, phantom rigs, even voices on the CB. You don't have to do this. I tossed the cigarette and ground it under my boot. I'm already halfway there, I said. Text me the coordinates. I'll check it out. There was a long pause on the line. Godspeed, Mike. As I pulled out of the rest stop, I noticed the moon was hanging low and red over the desert, full and heavy like it was watching me. I flipped on my CB radio, channel 19, and said, just for the hell of it, Breaker 19, anyone out there running near Devil's Highway tonight? Silence. Then, static, a whisper barely audible. Turn around, I stared at the radio. My hand hovered over the knob, unsure if I should switch it off or keep listening. Then I laughed nervously like it was just the wind, or a weird squelch from the heat. I didn't believe in curses. Not really. But as I took the on-ramp heading east, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just signed up for something I didn't quite understand. By the time I hit the edge of Route 666, the landscape had gone still. Not just quiet, dead still. No bugs, no wind. Just the sound of tires over cracked blacktop and the occasional desert whisper rattling through my side mirrors. There was something wrong with the air itself. It was like driving into a pressure chamber where every sound got swallowed and every instinct told you to turn back. But I didn't. I followed the long, straight highway deeper into the dark, and somewhere, about 40 miles past the last gas station, I passed a mile marker. The numbers were faded, rusted over, barely visible under the grime, but there it was. Mile marker 666. The desert didn't feel empty anymore. I rolled into the scene just after dawn, dust trailing behind me like a ghost. The sun was fighting to climb above the mountains, but the light didn't feel right. It was too dim, too cold for a desert morning, as if the place was holding back. Daylight like it didn't want to let go of the dark. Sheriff Hank was already there, standing beside a cruiser, one hand resting on his belt and the other shielding his eyes from the weak morning sun. He was a wiry guy with a white beard, leathery skin, and the kind of expression that said he'd seen too much and didn't trust a damn bit of it anymore. "Mike Sullivan," he said as I stepped out of my truck. "Dispatch said you were coming." "That's right." I was close enough. Jake was a friend. Hank gave a slow nod, but his eyes stayed on the stretch of road behind me. "Yeah, I figured. Come on, better see it for yourself." We walked up to Jake's rig, Old Hazel. She was still idling, humming a little louder than usual, almost like she was anxious. Her paint job was scratched to hell, the chrome grille pitted and dull, but she was solid, reliable. Jake kept her, cleaner than most drivers kept their kitchens. But today she looked wrong. Not damaged exactly, just off. There was dust on the dashboard like she'd been sitting there for days, not hours. The windows were cracked, not shattered, just long. Thin lines spidering out from the corners, like something had pressed against the glass from the inside. "Doors were open when we found her," Hank muttered. "No signs of forced entry. CB was dead, but the radio's fine. No prints, no blood. Just nothing." I climbed into the cab. The interior was in disarray, Jake's atlas tossed on the floor. His logbook flipped open to a blank page. His lunch cooler overturned and leaking water. The air inside felt stale. Not like someone had just left, like no one had ever been there. The weirdest part? His gloves were sitting neatly on the wheel, like he'd taken them off with care before disappearing into thin air. "Did you check the dashcam?" I asked. Hank nodded. "Yup, footage corrupted. Last image is just static and what looks like fire. It's hard to tell. The tech boys are working on it, but I wouldn't hold your breath." I stepped back outside and lit a cigarette. My hands were trembling slightly, and it wasn't the caffeine. "You ever seen anything like this?" Hank took a long time before answering. "Nope, but I've heard things. I waited, old stories," he finally said. "Go back decades. That part of the highways, it's older than the pavement. They built Route 666 right over something else, something that didn't want to be disturbed. Some say it's cursed land. Others say it's just the desert playing tricks. But I've heard about phantom trucks, radio static, ghost voices." He took a drag from his cigarette and looked out over the empty highway, and disappearing drivers. "Why isn't this closed down?" I asked. He smirked. "Because people don't listen, especially truckers on a tight schedule. You see an open road with no traffic, you think, shortcut. But shortcuts always cost you something. Just then something strange happened. The CB in my cab crackled to life. "Old Hazel, this is long haul, you copy?" I froze. That voice was Jake's. I scrambled up into my cab and snatched the receiver. Jake, is that you?" More static, then a faint, shaky, "He's coming." Mile marker. The rest cut out. I looked at Hank. "Did you hear that?" But Hank was already heading back toward his cruiser, shaking his head. "This place'll rot your brain if you sit in it too long." I watched him drive off. Then I did something real stupid. I followed the voice. I drove south, deeper into the desert. The landscape began to change, subtle at first. The road markings got faded like they hadn't been painted in years. Mile markers looked bent and rusted, but none of them read 1666 anymore. They'd skipped the number entirely. Went straight from 1665 to 1667, probably to ease superstition. But folks like me, we knew the number was still out there. You don't erase something like that just by painting over it. And then, just as the sun started dipping low in the sky, I saw it, a truck, about a mile ahead, driving slow, real slow. The trailer was long and black, windows shattered, tail lights flickering like a dying heartbeat. It looked like Jake's rig, but not exactly. I gunned it, closing the distance. But no matter how fast I pushed, I couldn't catch it. Every time I got close, it would drift further ahead, like it was there just to be seen, not to be reached. Then, as I rounded a bend, it simply vanished, gone, like it had driven straight into the air. I pulled over, heart hammering, sweat cold on my neck. My CB crackled again. Old Hazel, Old Hazel. Mile marker, help. But this time it wasn't Jake's voice, it was mine. I don't remember falling asleep. 1 minute I was staring at the empty stretch of road where Jake's truck had vanished, clutching the CB mic like it was a lifeline, and the next, my eyes snapped open to pitch darkness. Not the kind of dark where you can make out shapes if you squint, or catch the moonlight glinting off your side mirror. No. This was thick, like ink, the kind of dark that feels alive. That presses up against the glass like it wants in. I blinked, sat up in my seat and realized something was wrong. The engine was off, dead silent. Not a single light on the dash. I hadn't turned it off, that much I knew. And then the knocking. Started soft, rhythmic tap-de-tap-de-tap. It was coming from the passenger side door, the one Jake always used when we rode together. I reached for the dome light. Nothing. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. I reached over, hand shaking, and cracked the window. Nothing out there, just the dark and the wind. I turned the key in the ignition. The truck groaned, sputtered, then roared to life like it had just remembered how. The dash lights flickered, and for half a second, every gauge redlined, all of them, even the fuel. Then they dropped back to normal like nothing happened. The CB crackled. "You shouldn't be here." I grabbed the mic. "Who is this?" Static. I checked my watch. 3:03 a.m. Desert time. That's when things started to bend. Driving in the desert at night can mess with your head, especially if you're tired, dehydrated, or full of gas station burritos. But this was different. The lines on the road didn't stay straight anymore. They shimmered like heat mirages, twisting and spiraling, sometimes doubling back on themselves like I was driving in circles. The signs, when I could make them out, didn't make sense. Welcome to departure. Exit 0, turn back now. End of route. But I never passed an off-ramp. Just the road stretching on, longer than it should, like it was being built. Ahead of me as I drove, I blinked hard, rubbed my eyes, cracked the window for some fresh air. That's when I smelled it. Not sagebrush or dust like normal desert nights. It was smoke, burnt rubber, oil, something rotten under it all. Then I saw the wreck. I slammed the brakes. There, in the middle of the road, was a semi. Jackknifed. Its trailer torn open like a beer can. Cargo spilled across the asphalt. Fire flickered from underneath, casting an orange glow against the surrounding rocks. I jumped out and ran over, but there was no heat, no smoke, just light. Like the fire was a movie projected onto the scene. Unreal. Inside the cab I saw a figure slumped over the wheel. It was me, blood on the windshield, mouth open in a silent scream. My hat, on the dash. I stumbled back, heart in my throat. Then everything blinked, and the road was empty again. Just me, just the dark. My truck humming like it hadn't moved at all. I didn't stop again after that. I drove for what felt like hours, trying to get somewhere, anywhere. But the mile markers were stuck. Every time I passed one, it said the same thing. Mile marker 6666. I passed it 3 times. 4, 5. I started keeping tally marks on a notepad. 7 tallies later, it still said 666. The CB came to life again. "He's behind you." I checked my mirrors. There was a truck, headlights burning. White, too close. Way too close. I hit the gas, so did he. No matter how fast I went, he stayed right on my tail. Never swerved, never backed off. Just rode my bumper like he was pushing me towards something. I grabbed the mic. "Back off." Static, then. "It's not the road that's cursed, it's the driver." And just like that, the lights behind me vanished, gone. Not like they turned off. Like they were never there to begin with. By the time dawn rolled around, if you can call it that, 'cause the sun never quite broke the horizon, I was barely holding it together. I stopped on the shoulder near a dead cactus and got out. The silence was unbearable. No birds, no wind. Not even the tick of the cooling engine. Then, off in the distance, I saw it. Jake, standing by a crooked mile marker, waving. He looked tired, pale, not scared, just resigned. I ran toward him, but the closer I got, the further he drifted. Like I was chasing a reflection in water. I screamed his name. He turned his head, and when he did, his eyes were pitch black. Like coals, like twin holes punched into the sky. Then he was gone. Just gone. I dropped to my knees in the dust, breathing hard, trying to make sense of it. But I already knew. The desert didn't want me to understand. It didn't want me to find Jake. It wanted me to stay. It was rewriting itself around me, turning every direction into a loop, every memory into a question mark, every voice into a whisper saying the same thing. You were warned. I don't remember deciding to stop. 1 second I was white-knuckling the wheel, eyes fixed dead ahead. The next I was pulled over on the shoulder, engine idling soft, like it was waiting to see what I'd do next. Everything was still, like the world had stopped breathing. My GPS was gone, just a blank screen. Compass spinning like it had no north. My watch had frozen at 4:06 a.m., exactly 1 hour after I saw Jake. I stepped outside, boots crunching against cracked gravel. The heat was gone, not just cooled, gone. The desert, normally blazing even at night, felt like a freezer. My breath clouded in front of me, hanging in the air too long, and there it was again. That mile marker, rust-streaked, crooked, barely, standing. But unmistakable, Bagsay, except now, it looked different. There were deep scratch marks gouged into the metal, like claws or fingers. 5 of them, uneven, fresh. Underneath, someone or something had carved a message. No exit. My gut twisted. I turned around and saw nothing. No road behind me, no lights, no stars, just darkness. Even my truck looked wrong. Windows, fogged from the inside, wipers slowly dragging across a bone-dry windshield, like it was alive and trying to see out. I was about to climb back in when I noticed something in the dirt a few feet ahead. A boot print. Not mine. Too small. Another beside. It, then more, leading away from the road, deeper into the desert. Dozens of them, all heading in the same direction. I should have left. I should have turned the key, thrown it in gear and gotten the hell out of there, but I followed them. About a mile in, the prints started to vanish. Not fade, vanish. Mid-step. Like people had been plucked off the earth mid-walk. That's when I saw the rigs. Dozens of them, old rusted-out trucks sunken halfway into the sand like skeletons. Some were newer, cabs still intact. Others looked like they hadn't moved since the 70s. Grillwork twisted, paint peeled down to bare metal. No tags, no numbers, just grave markers with steering wheels. I walked between them, careful not to touch anything. The air was heavy, buzzing with electricity, like just before a lightning strike. My skin prickled, hairs on my arms standing straight up. Then I heard it, footsteps, crunching behind me. I spun around. No one. Turned back, and one of the trucks had moved. Not by much, just a couple inches, like it was inching forward, like it knew. I was watching, then another, then another. The rigs were shifting, turning, facing me, their headlights flared to life, all at once, blinding and white-hot. Even though there was no power, no batteries, no way. They revved engines that shouldn't run, horns that shouldn't work, all roaring in unison like a funeral dirge made of diesel and steel. I ran. Back through the sand, back toward the road. But the road wasn't there anymore, just more dirt, more rocks. The landscape had changed while I was gone. I spun around, gasping for breath, and saw a figure standing beside the marker again. Not Jake this time, me wearing my jacket, my hat, but smiling in a way I never would, mouth too wide, eyes too empty, and behind him, a wall of headlights. Moving. I don't remember much after that, just flashes, a blinding white light swallowing everything, the scream of metal bending, the ground shaking, and one final transmission on the CB, faint, staticky. Disappeared, just like the rest. I woke up in my cab, windows intact, GPS working, sun up, no sign of the graveyard, no mile marker in sight. I was parked in the middle of nowhere, truck facing the opposite direction from where I'd come. Clock read 10:37 a.m. I radioed dispatch. No. Answer radioed Hank. Nothing. The CB crackled finally, a voice I didn't recognize. Mile marker 666, you're lucky to get out. Most don't. I drove, didn't stop for food, gas, sleep, didn't talk to anyone at the way stations, didn't tell anyone what I saw. You can't explain something like that. Not really. Because I don't think I came back alone. I didn't drive for a while after that. Took 2 weeks off. Parked my rig in the corner of a dusty lot behind a shuttered diner in Barstow and let it sit there like a rusting memory. I slept in cheap motels, drank bad coffee, stared at ceilings, like they might offer answers. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw the road, the mile marker, Jake, me, and that whisper, always in the back of my mind. You were warned. It started with the dreams, ones that didn't feel like dreams. I'd wake up behind the wheel, engine humming, white lines rolling under my tires, desert stretching endless in all directions. My hands would be on the wheel, but I couldn't feel them. Couldn't feel anything. I'd try to turn the truck, brake, scream, and nothing. Just locked into the ride, staring at that crooked old mile marker that kept rushing past over and over. Each night it got closer. Each time I stayed in the dream longer. Until one night, I didn't wake up. When I finally came to for real, I was already driving, eyes wide open, radio static filling the cab. My GPS was fried again. Clock blinking 12 hours like it had just been reset. I hadn't even touched the key. But the truck was moving. Down that same stretch of highway, I swore I'd never go near again. The sign ahead was newer this time, like someone had just planted it. Mile marker 66. Next right. And for some reason, I took it. Didn't think. Didn't hesitate. Just turned off the main road and rolled into the dark. The highway had changed since I'd last seen it. Smoother, fresher paint. The kind of road that shouldn't exist out here in the middle of nowhere. Desert on either side, but not natural. Everything felt staged. Too perfect. Like a movie set of a desert, not the real thing. Even the cacti looked wrong, bent just slightly toward the road, like they were watching. The CB stayed quiet, but I didn't need it to tell me what was coming, because I knew now. Mile marker 666. Wasn't just a place. It was a threshold, a door, a test, and I'd passed it once barely. But now I was back, and when the road wasn't going to let me cheat it again. That's when I saw the convoy. A dozen trucks, headlights flaring like angry eyes. In the dark, all riding slow and silent. I recognized every one of them. Rigs that had disappeared over the years. Sam Griggs, the old man who vanished in '95 with a load of lumber. Laurie Bell, who disappeared with her dog just outside Winslow. Jake. They were all there. Driving in formation. Perfect sync, only they weren't driving, they weren't alive. I could see it in the way they moved. Too smooth, too coordinated. Like puppets on strings. And every cab window. Shattered, blood-streaked. Empty. They pulled alongside me, one on either side. Engines roaring, but wheels never touching the ground. I tried to pull back, my brakes were gone. Steering locked, I was being herded toward the mile marker. This time it didn't read 686. It read, "Welcome home." I blacked out. For how long? Don't know, long enough for the world to change again. I woke up in a truck stop outside Needles, sun blazing, everything normal, almost. The truck was fine, parked neat, keys in the ignition. Only one thing was different. My logbook on the dash. Last. Page written in handwriting I didn't recognize. Made the delivery. Final haul. He's one of us now. I flipped back and saw entry after entry from drivers I'd heard about years ago but who'd disappeared without a trace. Each one ended the same way. Final haul. He's one of us now. And in the back of the logbook, a photo of me standing beside Jake, smiling, in front of mile marker 66. I don't remember taking it. I don't remember smiling like that, and I sure as hell don't remember ever coming back to the truck stop. So if you're ever hauling freight through Arizona, and you see a clean stretch of road where there shouldn't be one, with a crooked sign half buried in sand, do yourself a favor. Don't stop. Don't follow the lights. Don't answer the CB. And whatever you do, don't take the exit at mile marker 666, because the road remembers, and it wants you back.